Good morning. We're in the EFC class. Okay.
Good morning.
I'm admitting you, Mr. Carlos. Good morning. Welcome to EFC. It's Sunday, February 28th, the last day of February 2021. And we're all here. Good morning. We're getting started just a little early. It's okay. I like to be on time. And this morning we have David Cota as our speaker, teaching us some HR info. He's from our local Walmart down in Chula Vista, right?
Yes, Eastlake.
Eastlake. Nice to meet you, David. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no.
Okay, okay. Well, I've been in San Diego since 1980. Do you know when Eastlake was being planned? What year?
I believe that's around 2005.
It was being planned or?
Oh, as far as the actual original plans, no.
Okay, okay. Yeah, because I've been here since 80 and it was still beginning. We're gonna use the mic. Good morning. We have a visitor. Huh?
At the bottom one has to be blue.
There we go. Get our mic. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
There we go.
Thank you for joining us. What's your name? Alexander, help yourself to a name tag and sign in, please. Thank you. So this is the EFC class at Skyline Church. Thank you all for coming. We're just going to open prayer. We'll have our speaker till top of the hour and questions and answers afterwards. You could interject in between if needed. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this time together. Thank you for all the good things that you give us each day, Lord. And I just pray that each one of us will get to have a personal relationship with you and walk with you daily. I thank you for our speaker, Lord, and just help us to utilize all the good things that he's going to give us and understand the business in HR, Lord, human relations, because I know you're concerned about that too. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And I'm sure we'll have more people on Zoom entering in slowly, but I'll give you the mic. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Cota. I have a little presentation that hopefully can help you with your current business or someone that you may know that's thinking about opening a business and how to lead business. And I just wanted to start out a little bit telling my story and how I started. So I've been a retail store manager for 20 years. I currently run the Chula Vista Eastlake Walmart. I currently have do roughly about $140 million of sales, a 200,000 square foot store. I don't know if any of you have shopped the Walmart there. It is the biggest store in San Diego County, and it does the most sales also, as well as the most associates in San Diego County. Began my retail career with Walmart back in 1992 as a maintenance associate. You know, I had a background in construction and wanted to get into something more permanent, long-term with benefits. And Walmart had actually come to town in 1992. And back in those days in San Diego County, nobody had any idea what a Walmart was unless you were from the Midwest. So I applied and they offered me maintenance. So I was happily willing to take that because I was very confident in my ability and what I could do, and I wanted to just move up. Currently on the board of advisors for the Jackie Robinson YMCA, which is also the biggest YMCA in San Diego County. I've been happily serving there for the last 2 years. I'm a resident of the Chula Vista community and very proud that I'm a minority in leadership, Mexican American. So a little bit about my journey. I was born and raised in San Diego. I grew up in a low-income family, high crime areas. I certainly didn't fit the pedigree, if you will, of the common person that would move up into running the organization that I currently run today. I didn't finish high school. Unfortunately, my parents divorced, and I've been basically working full-time since I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I was basically, typical 12-year-old about to hit 13, and I wanted the newest shoes and the coolest pants and the coolest tank tops, all that kind of stuff, right? And unfortunately, my mom was very honest with me and said, "Hey, son, we just are not in that position. If you would like to supply yourself with what you would like, you've got to go and earn it, right?" And so I really started to go out there and realize that I needed to go out there and make some money. And so not finishing high school was certainly not necessarily something that I wanted, but it was more of a situation that I really needed to not just help myself, but help my mom. So now, just a couple things that have changed my life. I've been married since 1992, and it's ironic, right? When I had started with Walmart, same year I was married. I started in June of '92 with Walmart, and I got married in October of '92 as well. I've been married for 28 years. After 3 years of I worked maintenance, unloading, many hourly positions within the first 3 years. I was very proud that I was actually able to get promoted from a maintenance associate to an assistant manager, which at that time I was 22 years old. So I started with the company right when I was about 19 years old. And I was very happy that I had achieved that, management title, if you will, because again, me growing up, and especially in a lower income area, I guess the model, if you will, was, you had to graduate, had the degree in business, you had to come from a family that put you in all the right positions. And so I was very proud that I was one of those folks that was able to just move up based off of my attitude and hard work. I became a store manager in 2000. My first store was in the San Bernardino area. It was one of those areas at the time was probably one of the more complex stores to run, very high crime area. The reason I feel like I probably got it is nobody wanted it, and that was okay, because that's the model of success, right? If you just kind of run with the herd, you're one of everybody else, right? So sometimes you got to make those life-changing decisions and moments on how you can be different than everybody else, right? So I was able to go in there. I'm very proud that I was able to be there for 5 years. Every store manager prior to me, and that store had been open well over 10 years and never lasted more than 6 months. Either were left due to stress, either was terminated for store conditions, or associates not happy. So I was very proud that I bucked that trend as well. My only daughter was born in 2006. She's now 14 years old. I'm very proud of that, and she's doing very well. She's an A/B student. Most of hers are A's, and she's got a couple of B's. But I'm very proud because she's certainly a lot different than I was in school. I was unfortunately a C and D kind of guy, and she's definitely A's and B's, which makes a father proud. Ironically, I left Walmart in 2004 and joined a company called More Furniture. And the reason why I left the company was not because I was not happy with Walmart, but again, I had started with the company so soon, 19 years old, and by this time I was with the company 15 years. And I didn't really know what else was out there, and I kind of didn't, you only live once, right? There's no, second time to make it better. So I kind of just thought that was part of life, right? 15 years with the company, maybe it's time to start a new ideal. So I went to More Furniture, which is based out of San Diego. And I tell you what, I really learned a lot during that time. I'll get into that a little bit, but I ran 2 stores for More Furniture. I ran right here, the one in El Cajon, as well as the one in Miramar. I actually rejoined the company back in 2009, and ironically trained right here in the actual Walmart Supercenter that I currently run today. I was then promoted after about 6 months back into Walmart. I ran the west side of town off of Broadway, off of the 54. That store was doing about $80 million when I ran that store, and I ran that store for about 5 years, and then most recently was then promoted into the biggest store in San Diego in 2010. And I've been there since the last 5 years, almost 6 years now. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how I transitioned from a manager to a leader, because keep in mind, I came from construction, hard work, from the streets where, you just kind of handle things straight on, right? There wasn't a lot of sugarcoating. So when I got deputized, if you will, and became a manager, I was about just getting things done, right? And when you think about manager is really about, fixing things, identifying problems and fixing things, correct? Whereas opposed to a leader is about identifying talent and growing that talent, right? And getting your results through others and really motivating others to achieve more. And that's probably the most satisfaction part that I have today. It's not running a $140 million Walmart Supercenter, but it's to look back over the years of how many people have been promoted under my leadership. And that's really what I take a lot of pride in. So in '98, that kind of I started to transition from to a coach versus a manager type mentality. Really a key book that I read that I highly recommend it is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Those of you who have not, I definitely highly recommend it. There's 7 habits I'll just go through real quickly that certainly have changed not just my career, but also my life personally, because you can really kind of look at some of these things and see how it pertains to your personal life. So number 1 is be proactive. And I kind of added a couple of things on how I view it. For example, is, don't wait for others to tell you. When you be proactive and you identify an opportunity, take that opportunity. Because if you wait for others, then there's no longer sometimes that opportunity, right? And I think that goes a long ways in entrepreneurship. So when you go and you see an opportunity, you got to be proactive and go after that before everybody else does. And then it's no longer an opportunity, right? Also, beginning with the end in mind, what are you trying to accomplish? So whether you are opening up a business, whether you're trying to solve a problem, whether you're trying to promote somebody, beginning with the end in mind, because you can't plan for the future if you have no navigation to where you're going, right? Putting first things first is a big thing for me that I've really helped, because at Walmart, probably the most common thing for me is having way too much than I can handle, right? You're never going to finish everything. You can work every day, 6, 7 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day, and you're never going to finish everything. So what I really had to learn and I really master is how do you prioritize your priorities? What is the most important things to get accomplished today? What needs to get accomplished tomorrow or by the end of the week? And so that has really helped me and helps me get through my day, through my weeks, through my months, running a big operation like I do. And as an entrepreneur, it's kind of the same thing, right? When you really focus on things that aren't a priority, you're not making a difference in your business, right? Or you're not making that difference for your customers or for your employees. Thinking win-win when you're doing this. What's good for both the business and your people, right? At the end of the day, when you're opening up a business, whether you're running a business for a corporation like Walmart or an entrepreneurship like Dave Martin, right? At the end of the day, you got to look at it as what's best for the business, because without a business, you have no employees and you have no business, correct? But at the same time, if you don't have dedicated employees or what we call associates at Walmart, then you have no business, right? So you really got to think what's best for the business, both the end employee / associate that we call them here at Walmart, and be able to make those decisions together. Another big one that I really looked at is seeking first to understand and then to be understood. So what I have really learned is to listen and then speak, right? Because I think just naturally we want to be heard, so we want to speak, right? And I grew up always hearing, God gave you 2 ears for a reason and 1 mouth, right? You should be listening twice as much as you're speaking. But a lot of times, unfortunately, especially in leadership, that's typically not how leaders are raised, right? And they're not leaders until they learn this. But I've had many leaders that, well, at least thought they were leaders, that just wanted to speak, and every time I would try to speak, wouldn't want to listen, right? So our people truly make the difference, but they can't make the difference if you're not willing to listen to them, right? So seeking first to be understand and then to be understood is a big deal. Synergizing, including the ideas of others that create an inclusion of the workplace is a big deal. So you might have the keys to the store, you might have the entrepreneurship, that it might say Dave Martin or whatever the case may be. But if you don't utilize your associates or your employees to get ideas, to keep your business open, they're the ones that are your first contact to your customers. They're the ones who have great ideas. So not just listening to them to implement better ideas for your business, but also the fact that it creates that inclusion in the workplace, right? The associates or employees, like I said, that we're talking about, take a lot more effort when they feel like they're part of it, right? Because it's one thing to be an employee and it's another feeling to be feeling like you're that part owner. So that's a big deal to synergize. Sorry. The last thing is sharpen the saw, which probably is the most fun, but it's yet the most probably least, I guess, utilized, especially if you're an entrepreneur, I would imagine, right? Especially myself, if I'm running the kind of store that I run, is sharpening the saw. I don't know if I'm moving out of this here, but
It's okay.
okay.
Sorry,
Take time for yourself because you know, it's like a saw, right? If you're using it every day, 7 days a week, eventually that blade goes dull, right? And it seems kind of like a very simple deal, but when you realize a sharper you is a much more effective you, right? And if you really get good at prioritizing your priorities, including your associates and your ideas, and you really empower your people, it becomes more and more easier to take your time off, right? Whether it's an 8-hour day, 10-hour day, 12-hour day, whatever type of time that you put in for the workplace, you also got to make sure that you're scheduling that time for yourself to sharpen that saw. So on that, did anybody have any questions on any of that by any chance? Carlos?
You said that you look for value in people. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so, and I love to do this. This is probably, again, the most funnest thing that I do is, again, I started at $4.75, scrubbing toilets and cleaning floors at Walmart. And probably the most fun thing that I do is when I go tap a shoulder of a maintenance associate today and I said, hey, you have a bright future. You're going to be a store manager someday. And they look at me and they say, what are you talking about? I said, that's where I started, exactly doing what you're doing, right? So when I go and identify people that have what I call, you know, urgency, you know, trying to get something done as quickly and safely as they possibly can. And when they're doing it, when they're doing it and nobody's looking, those are the ones I really try to identify as like, hey, they have talent to do something more, right? And so sometimes people don't believe in themselves. It's an unfortunate part, right? So as a leader, it makes such a big difference when you can tap them on the shoulder. Number one, you identify that they have talent. And number two, you're going to help them be successful, right? Because now you've not just become their boss, you've become a partner in their future success, which is a big deal. So yeah, that's a great question. Any other questions on that?
Do you have a central location for training your employees? And is it the same one for, you go from like employee to into possible leadership, managing and then leadership? Do you have the same protocol for them starting here and up there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. Actually, we at Walmart, you know, it's very digitalized, you know, at this point. So yes, at every level, there's a training computer deal that will take them through the process of getting them to the next level. You know, what I would say is that, you know, as an entrepreneur or whether you're running a small business is yes, everybody learns at a different capacity and at every different level, you learn different, right? And so I can remember going from maintenance to unloading trucks. That alone was a big change for me, right? So, you know, to utilize the terminology, you know, at that time would have been way over my head and it would have been way above my training, right? So really having a clear, concise career path and understand that whether it be a computer, whether it be, you know, paper printout of the training to make sure that you understand who the student is, right? Because then we'll go on this a little bit, but I've always talked about, you know, as a teacher, it's really important to be a better student and be able to identify and learn what you, as much as you can. So when it comes time to you teaching, you can better relate to the student and have more content. But with that being said, is understand and remember when you were a student, what a great teacher, what they did and how they got your results, right? And so that way you don't forget kind of how you learn. So when you go to teach, you're teaching in that same way. But that's an excellent question. I think that one of the most, especially probably, I'm guessing, in entrepreneurship, because it's so difficult to just, you know, open your doors, drive top line sales, control your expenses. You know, you lose track of probably the most important part of the business is the training and development of your people, right? And so what happens is a lot of times in small business, you have a lot of turnover. Well, when you have a lot of turnover, nobody gets really good at what they're doing, right? And typically people turn not necessarily because they don't believe in themselves, it's because they don't believe in the company. right? And you as the entrepreneur owner, or me as a store manager, I represent the company, right? So when they stop believing in me and my direction and my leadership, that's when they go and search for leadership elsewhere. Thank you. So leadership in action, I put leadership is not about building followers, but teaching followers to be leaders. And that's a big thing, right? Because, I think sometimes we're naturally born to be a follower. We have a mom and dad and we look up to them and they're going to teach us how to walk or talk and all that kind of stuff. But mom and dad typically are going to teach you, right? To hopefully then be a leader. But sometimes that doesn't happen. I came from divorced parents and, my upbringing was not necessarily, I guess maybe it's a little bit more common than it was back in those days. But it's very difficult when you come from a single parent and it's more of, mom's trying to be mom and dad. There's a mom and dad for a reason, because it really takes both to really get both points across. But yeah, it's important. So allow people to make mistakes and learn. Employees learn to be afraid by making a mistake if you don't allow them to make it. And so I think this is a big deal too, is teaching your folks to make decisions. It's better to make a wrong decision than not to make a decision, right? And so again, if I had a business of my own, allow people to make mistakes to learn. Employees learn from not being afraid to make a mistake. So again, what I tell my people is I'd rather you make a decision that's wrong, because you can learn from that, right? Than to not make a decision and you don't learn, right? Because the objective is to grow the business through your people. Your people will never learn if you don't allow them to make decisions and make mistakes, right? And so your business will never grow if your people aren't growing with it. Because at the end of the day, again, I'll talk many times, and we talk many times at Walmart, people truly make the difference, but your people can't make the difference if you don't allow them to.
I would call that empowering your employees.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let your actions speak louder than your words, not vice versa. So this is a big deal as well. It's because sometimes, people get up there, they speak and they talk about what you should do and all that kind of things, and then their actions speak differently than what they just spoke about, right? And your people see that, right? It's kind of like, hey, do as I say, but not as what I do, right? So if you're going to have things that are important in the workplace, like dress code, customer service, right? Time and attendance, punctuality, all those kinds of things, then you should model that behavior, right? Because again, when you think about it, when you're a child, you're looking at mom and dad, right? Well, when you're an associate or your employee, you're looking at your managers, your leaders, right? And if they're not doing it, it must be not really that important, right? So it's so important to really let your actions speak louder than words.
David, I gotta get you another.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, thank you.
Thank you for
appreciate that.
coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Gotta go to the sunset.
Oh, we have
Yeah.
multi-classes today.
So your people will start believing in themselves when you start believing in them. It kind of goes back to if you believe in them making a decision, right? Because I'll have people say, Dave, I don't know what to do. I said, well, I trust you. Make a decision. What do you want us to do, right? And sometimes I'll help them through that, right? And they'll make that decision. It says, sounds great. What's the plan of action? Where are we going to attack first? Help them through that decision versus saying, hey, make a decision and I'll be back. Let me know how it turns out, right? So there's ways of going about it. But you certainly want to make sure that your associates or your employees, again, make sure that they know that you believe in them. And sometimes just simple things of saying, hey, I believe in you and I trust your judgment goes a long ways. So I have simple things that what I call the pillars of leadership. Development first. So your people need to understand the plays and the plan. And you as the coach are responsible to teach the plays and the plan, right, to your people. So I always tell people the very first thing we do is develop, right? Because they can't go execute the play and have no idea what the plan is if you don't take the time out to work with them. And then you go and you recognize them, celebrate the wins, and you celebrate those MVPs that are out there within your organization, because our people make the difference, but there are MVPs within every organization. Who are those ones that you would take with you to the next business or to the next store because they're doing such a great job? Who are those associates that you would promote tomorrow if you had that opportunity to do so, and making sure that they understand and they know so, right? And an unfortunate part, but it is definitely a pillar of leadership that you must do is accountability. But you've got to earn the right for the step. Be specific and constructive, not destructive. So when you've taken plenty of time to develop over and over again, you know you've recognized them when they've done a great job, but at this point, they've made a decision not to do a good job. Then part of sometimes getting them on the right track is to have that accountability, constructive process, right? Sometimes you got to sit folks down and let them know that the behavior performance of what they're currently working at is not to the standard of yourself as a leader or the organization. And come up with a career path that can get them back on track, right? And I think that's an important piece that sometimes we don't do enough of. I think development and recognition is a lot more meaningful when they also know that there is accountability as well. So as a leader, you can't just hold people accountable. As a leader, you can't just recognize. As a leader, you can't just develop. You really got to do all three for the full circle to work. So that's why I call it the pillars of the leadership there. Any questions on that? So,
Carlos.
oh, sorry.
Do you have, like, in the training program, after you've gone through the training program, and you have people that, you know, when they're special, or when the percentage, what percentage succeed in what, at Walmart on, against the ones that are let go and the ones that stay with you and go forward? Do you have any feel for that?
Yeah. So it's kind of like the 80-20 rule a little bit. I think that 80% of your people, however you slice it up, are coming to do a good job, right? 10% of the people that you have, regardless of who you are going to do a great job, right? And 10% of your people will do a great job. 80% of your people will do a solid job. 10% of your people, the other 10%, are the ones that you've really got to work with, right? Either, they're just working because they got to work, or they're working through school and it's not their priority, or, there's different reasons why they're not performing to the company or, your organization level. And that 10% sometimes may take up 80% of your time when it comes to training and development and all that good stuff that we're talking about. But how you really move the pillar is how you get that 80% to really move up into that high performance culture, if you will, right? So it's really hard to put a number on it. Like we don't have any percentages per se, like, your percentage of succession rate, if you will, at Walmart. But just kind of that general rule from experience, it's usually, again, I have 500 people that work at my store. So on average, I'm going to have 50 people that are probably in some sort of accountability process. I'm going to have about 10% of people that are in some sort of promotability process, right? Well, the other 80%, so the other, 400 people, is how do we get them to perform at a higher level? Those are the ones that, if you think about it, they're 80% of your workforce performing at just a solid level. So if you could move that needle on that 80%, and it's always a numbers game, right? How do you move the needle on that 80% to where your solid performer is a lot higher than the next entrepreneur's solid performer, right? And so it's the same thing as a store manager for Walmart. If my 80% of solid performance is a lot higher than the neighboring store down the street, whether it be a red store or another green store, or whatever the case may be, a competition, if my performance of that 80% is higher than my competition, then I'm going to be a lot better service to my community, right?
You gave the label red or green store. What is that?
Like Target,
Another brand,
other stores, the competition, right? And of course, there's always, the other Walmarts, but they're generally spaced. In my community, I actually have a smaller Walmart about 5 miles from me, next to a Costco. Of course, we're a complete different formats. It's I think he's about a 60, 70,000 square foot Walmart, and I'm a 200,000 square foot Walmart. So sometimes people like to shop his store for convenience. We're mine for selection and space.
So how long have you been working at Walmart?
I have been on and off with Walmart for over 25 years.
When you say on and off, there was a period of time you left?
Yes, I left Walmart for 4 years to run 2 stores for More Furniture.
And why did you come to that?
Because I feel like once you bleed blue, you bleed blue. I started with Walmart at 19 years old. And again, going through that career path after 15 years, I just thought it was normal to leave a company, right? But again, when I worked for More Furniture, I learned about 7 habits of highly effective people. I learned about getting results through others. I learned a lot about motivating people because it was more of a commission-based business, whereas opposed to Walmart is hourly based. So there's completely different. I had sales associates that made more than I did. How do you motivate? Excuse me?
We're at that.
The more.
More Furniture. Yeah, I ran the one in El Cajon and the one in Miramar.
Wow. By the way, you know, it's funny, you make it sound simple, but so heavy, it's crazy.
It really is.
I mean, it's just absolutely crazy.
Well, what I love about leadership is nobody ever masters it, right? It's a constant training and development of yourself. And remember, you're only one leader in your building, and to grow higher in volume and sales and square footage, you have more leaders in your building. So for example, I have 14 salaried members of management in my building, and then I extend out to about 30 hourly supervisors that we call our members of management. So you're talking, 40 to 50 people that lead my other 450 people, right? So I could be, Obi-Wan Kenobi when it comes to leadership, but it doesn't do me any good if I can't train and develop the other 45 folks that are actually leading that 450, because my direct reports is 14, right?
You have 14 people that directly report to you.
Correct.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I have, what we call 2 store leads that direct report to me, and then I have now 12 salaried members of management to them. So technically, if you want to get technical, it's technically 2 levels down, but the way we're structured, we interact commonly, right? But past that, then we get to an hourly supervisory position, which they're more in tune with the salary. So, but I have, huddles and meetings and training, because again, I want to spend 80% of my time training 45 of those leaders that I have, because they're the ones that are going to impact my 400 other 50 associates, right? So if I went around and tried to train my 450 associates and didn't go and spend the time training my leaders, then again, I wouldn't be prioritizing my priorities like I talked about earlier, right? You got to spend 80% of your time where you get the biggest return on your investment, right? So tracking the results, you should see turnover improve, right? And whether you're an entrepreneur or you're running a Walmart store, you want to track your turnover, because if you're turning more people, than you did a month ago or a year ago, the recipe's changing and you've got to change it, right? Because it costs money to rehire somebody, right? At an entrepreneur level, it can get pretty expensive, right? When you talk about the different types of training and all that kind of stuff, it can get very expensive, especially if you start the drug test and background check and all that kind of good stuff. Sales and service should improve. You should start to see your store traffic improve. You should see then if your basket size didn't increase, even with the store traffic increasing, your total store sales should increase. People should be getting promoted, right? Because again, you don't want to be a dead-end business. You want to be able to be a stepping stone, right? So at the end of the day, when people come to work for you, they want to be able to do more, right? Very few people walk into a business and say, this is all I ever want to do for the rest of my life, right? And I want to come in here and do a bad job while I'm doing it, right? They want to come in, they want to do a good job, and they want to do something with their life. Generally, 80 to 90% of the time, right? I'd say closer to 90% of the time. Again, going back to that 10%, you're always going to have that 10%, right? That just like to cause problems, if you will. But 80 to 90% of your people want to do something, right? So if you're turning them, they're turning on you, and you got to identify why. It could be you, it could be your benefits, it could be your pay, it could be your work environment, it could be your hours. You got to identify and solve that problem, right? Inventory control and shrinkage should improve. So what I mean by inventory control is if your sales are up and you're turning your inventory, you shouldn't see your back room exploding, right? You shouldn't have a bunch of excess inventory that you paid for out of your money, right? That's tied up now in product. And it's not turning anything because it's just sitting in the back room or sitting on the sales floor, not turning, right? So you should see a healthy inventory control as well as shrinkage. So again, if you're turning your product, it gives people less of an opportunity to take it from you, right? Unfortunately, the average store shrinks about 2% of every $1. And that comes very expensive, right? So when you run a store like mine that's doing $140 million, it's very common to shrink almost $2 million, right? $2 million. An average Walmart truck is about $100,000. So when you are missing 20 of them in a year, what happened, right? But the more that you can turn your inventory, the less opportunity you have to lose it.
So that when you say shrink, it's employee coverage.
Shrinkage would be unaccounted for dollars, right? Whether it be a physical merchandise missing, whether it be unaccounted, like an accounting error. You know, you thought you had $20 worth of product, but you really only had $10 worth of physical products, and so you overbooked yourself an extra $10. And when you go to account for that, now you're missing that $10. Well, that $10 was never there to begin with. It was just an accounting error, right? So it may be an accounting error, or it may be an internal or an external theft problem. Company morale should improve, right? We have what's called a Walmart CBWA, coaching by walking around. And I just like to personalize, you know, I get to know my customers. Carlos is one of my, not just my neighbor, but my customer, and I see him in there all the time, him and his beautiful wife, and many customers that I go and I see, and I just simply say, hello, how are you doing, right? It's not even about like, hey, you find everything you're looking for, right? That's my job. But personalization is, hey, how are you doing? You staying safe? How's everything, right? That goes a long ways when you go and you personalize with your customer, but then also personalize with your associates. Because what is that displaying? It displays that you care about people. And when you care about people, in return, they care about you. But it's only about the dollar, and I only care about, are you finding what you're looking for? So this way you can buy it and raise my sales? Hey, you know, right? Hey, are you working hard so you can make me money, right? So when you think that way and act that way, then your people are like, man, Dave only cares about his bonus, right? Keeping his job, right? But when I ask them about how they're doing, especially when I know that they've been sick or somebody's been sick, and in some cases, you know, we have, you know, deaths to their loved ones, right? But having empathy goes a big ways, right?
Man, you must be working 24/7. I mean, the impression I get is you're super motivated 24/7. Do you even have a private life? Let me ask you.
You know, if you ask my wife, she would tell you no. No, you know, to your point, you know, certainly running a $140 million operation, yeah, you know, I'm a 6-day-a-week guy and tuned in 7 days a week. And what I mean by tuned in is, you know, my phone's always on. I may not reply to every text right away, but I reply to my texts. I get texts all the time. Digitally, I'm always plugged in. I wake up in the morning, I look at my sales, I look at my inventory levels, I look at all those numbers, and it starts my day. And if I start out with the wrong numbers, then I make some texts or I make some phone calls, right? So yeah, so when it comes to being plugged in, and if you think about it from an entrepreneurship, you got to be plugged into your business, because if you don't own your business, right, and you don't strive to do it better than your neighbor, then you won't be successful. So, but you need to sharpen that saw. So again, on Sundays, you know, that's when I rest, right? Or I come volunteer to speak, to help others, because that's what drives me, right? So if I can, you know what, if you guys would walk out of here with 1 or 2 things to be able to either A, change your business or change your lives, that makes me feel great, because the biggest thing that I can do is give back, because people took interest in me as I, you know, work my way up through the company. And I certainly take interest in many, many others. That's what I do. And that's why thank you. So executive leadership business that you'll see, should see your footprints. And I know this is kind of more of maybe big box deal here, but you know, in your guys' case, if you're running an entrepreneur, you know, at the end of the day, your customers are your executives, right? They're the boss. So if you're getting great business from your customers, then that's what, again, will drive your business. So I put on here the final, our people make the difference if you allow them, right? If you tell them to make the difference, they won't, right? They'll work their 8 hours and they'll go home. But if you allow them to make a difference in your, not just in your store, but in their community, right, in their lives, it goes a long ways, and it'll basically breed better morale, better promotions, a better work environment. And then again, it makes you feel better as a leader, and make myself, not just as a leader, but just an overall individual, goes a long way. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you guys so much. And thank you so much. What questions do you guys have to wrap up?
Come on.
You know, have you,
Go ahead.
I just wondered about the impact of COVID from a couple of point of views, like, since it really interrupted a lot of foreign sources for products.
Yes.
Did that affect you? And also, we usually have to control the customers going in and out of the store. Did it help with theft? And reducing it or anything like that? I know.
Yeah, you know what? This has been the most challenge, this past year, and has been the most challenging year I have ever had as a store manager. Not just from the logistics of getting product on your counter, to handling safety of both customers and associates, to having associates unfortunately pass away from COVID-19, right? It is a very, very difficult, headwind that we're facing, and because it is impacting people's lives, right? Not just from a fact that people are dying, but from a dollar perspective of people being able to pay, their rent or their mortgage, and things like that. So I think this is where leadership certainly has really stood out, because being a leader in your store is important, but being a leader in your community is equally as important, right? And so myself as a store manager, I'm always looking at how we can be safer for not just our associates, but our customers. But to your point, yeah, certainly you'll walk into a Walmart store today and see more outs than you probably ever have. See outs, out of stocks. And that's simply because of the fact that sometimes we forget that COVID-19 affects everyone, all the way from the people who are actually making the product, right? So not just the fact that they're making the product, they're packaging the product, they're delivering the product, or unloading the product. There's many steps until it finally gets on the shelf. And a lot of times they think it's just, hey, how many call-offs did you have due to COVID, right? Well, it really leads back all the way to, where it's manufactured. And you guys probably see things like beef, or pork at given times. There's never been so many times where I can't find a package of bacon to save my life, right? And it's, it's like, because again, you have any of these outbreaks. So there's a lot of curveballs that certainly have been thrown our way due to COVID. But I was watching the news this morning, and we just got approved for a third vaccine. And by June, we're supposed to have over 100 million of these things. And so, at some point, we're never gonna, I feel like, get to the end of the road, but the road is gonna be safer, it sounds like, which is gonna be good. You had a question?
If you had one takeaway, is it just work with your people, or is that another thing, or if you had one takeaway, it's still all this wisdom, 25 years of wisdom, what is it?
If I was to take away everything, is this last slide, is our people make the difference, right? If you allow them to. And the reason why I feel that's important is because I was that $4.75 maintenance associate, right? And I remember how I was treated. I remember the difference when I was then treated differently, when they actually gave me empowerment, when they actually gave me responsibility, when they actually told me, I trust you, when they actually believed in me, when they actually recognized my work, the difference that it made to my commitment level to my store, right? And I haven't forgotten that. And so it's been a long time since I've been an hourly associate. It was 1992, it was a long time ago, but I haven't forgotten, right? Because I think the biggest mistake people make is they forget about where they came from, right? And they forget about what their journey looked like, right? And the biggest thing that you can help people is to help them through their journey, right? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. People before profits. And again, and that's where the thinking win-win comes to play. Because at the end of the day, if I was to ask you, would you sacrifice your business for your people? Probably not, right? So there has to be a fine line. But when your people understand and you explain, hey, let's think win-win, because we got to keep the doors open, right? Because without the doors open, you have no job, I have no business. But I want you as part of my business, right? And so that's where I think talking with your people makes a big deal, because the biggest controllable asset companies have is their people. And if you look at Walmart has no problems with money, right? They have to continue to develop our people, right? With no people, you can't open more stores. You can't open more distribution centers. You can't deliver more Walmart.com, right? So that's a very underestimated asset is people, right? People try to go for the lowest rent, the lowest, wage, the lowest everything, right? But at the end of the day, you just have to make good decisions for your business, right? And it starts with good people, right? You get the good people in the door, you keep them in the door by doing what you do as a leader.
We have a question from Zoom.
Okay.
How do you deal with those violent anti-maskers who come to your store to shop and cause trouble?
Well, we have We have now at both doors, actually, somebody who wants to make sure they're educated, to let them know that it is county regulation that they do enter with a face mask. However, we do have folks who, want to go in without, right? So at that point, we notify the local law enforcement, and the law enforcement will then handle it based off of the protocol there. So we are educators. We don't, go and uphold the law. We just, educate, the law. So, unfortunately, 50, 60,000 customers that come through my doors through each week. Yeah, we're going to have 2 or 3 people that just don't want to wear a mask, right? But it's a very, 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 very small, minute decimal percent, if anything, now on the radar as opposed to it was 6 months ago. So education of the overall COVID-19 certainly has helped, and is, I think, won a lot of people over that it does make better sense to wear it.
Thank you.
Does Walmart have a leadership training program? So before you became a store manager, did they send you to a school to be to learn the tricks of the trade?
Yes, yeah, we do. It's about the student, right? Because it's like you can read a book and everyone's going to have sometimes a different perception of what that book meant to you. So yes, we do have a leadership and training for every level of supervision in our store. But again, a lot has to do with that actual student, right? And that's why I feel like the paper makes a difference, but the personalization makes even more. And that's why I feel like it's so critical that each leader touch each other leader to make sure that, again, we understand the fundamental importance of leading people, right? Because if you don't believe in it, you can read it, but not learn it, right? And so it's really important when you're selecting the right leaders, it begins in the heart. Do they have the heart to grow others, right? Do they have the heart to develop people? If they do not, you can, have all the speeches you want, give them all the books, and it's not going to mean as much if it's not in the heart, right? So, because at the end of the day, it's like the face mask thing, Some people wear the face mask because they have to. Some people wear the face mask because they believe in it, right? So again, people have a choice, but you can make a difference in their choice if you go in there and you say the right things at the right time with the right person. So great question.
I'm going to ask a economical question. So would you say Walmart, with their spending, liberal spending, we'll call it, do they give to areas that some consumers may not acknowledge or think that are good? And as a Christian, I'm against Planned Parenthood. I'm being honest here. Does Walmart invest in situations like that? Because I'm being honest again. Huh?
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
But you're talking forward to us.
Okay, I'm gonna say it again so you can hear it. Does Walmart invest in companies, 501c3s, that might be something that the consumer doesn't want them to donate to, like Planned Parenthood? Because I know Walmart gives out a lot of money.
So corporately, I can't speak for every dollar that's donated. I don't know. I don't have privilege to all that information. But what I do know is at store level, how it works is we get an allocated amount of what we call grant money to hand out into the local community, and we have an application process where you can go to walmart.org and put in your 501c3 information. And typically, we stick along the pillars of education, things like the green life, sustainability, right, is one of the other ones, as well as I don't want to say pharmaceutical because that's not the word I'm looking for, but more of health. Yeah, so health and wellness, we call it. So health and wellness, education, and sustainability. So things like the Jackie Robinson YMCA, if they're doing a youth camp, we may they may apply for $1,000 grant, or there might be a local Boys and Girls Club that asks for a grant, things like that. But anything specific, like when it comes to, like, let's say Planned Parenthood or whatever, things like that, we typically stick within the pillars. And then even myself as a store manager, I go and I submit that, and it gets approved through home office. So there's like a safety net, if you will, if I approve the wrong grant, right? To make sure we're staying along the pillars of what we're want to get behind. So Again, we have many, millions of customers, and so we don't get into the, hey, this is, what we support and what we don't. We try to offer all available product for all available customers that have different needs for different reasons. But when it comes to the 501c3, we try to stick within those 3 pillars. It's a very good question. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I appreciate your time. This is my first time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's my first time doing this, so I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining
You
us.
bet.
You've been a blessing. You've been a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for anyone that has any great speakers, I mean, I bring speakers in. Anybody who has somebody to share with the class, more than welcome to present it to us. We're inviting people from the community, near and far, via Zoom, whatever the opportunity can just, bless each one of us. We have different areas of expertise and communication, so just bring it forward. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for your goodness and your mercy in each one of our lives. I thank you for David and bless his family accordingly, Lord. I thank you for your tender mercies and the leadership of this class and this church, Lord. I pray for our Skyline community and everybody that it touches. I pray for blessings and healings and miracles for those all around our county, anybody suffering from COVID or any other heartbreaks going on financially due to the pandemic, Lord. I pray for our upcoming next month. Tomorrow's March, and we have hopefully 4 great speakers going forward. I pray that you bless them and just encourage each one of us to do our best as we are entrepreneurs for Christ. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, listen, you just lost.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You speak very well.
Okay, you're asking me or the class?
You're real.
Okay. All right, let me, yeah, next week. Yeah, tomorrow's March 1, and next month, we're gonna have 4 speakers, hopefully. And I do want to add that our March speaker next week will be Anton, our IT person. And he's gonna talk to us again about digital marketing and so forth. Okay? No. March, for the month of March. We're gonna have 4 great speakers. God bless everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Trying to see if I have a card.
Yeah, I didn't bring my
Good,
computer.
continue. Because if you can't.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you're really, really good.
Right.
And we are recording this and it is going to YouTube, so I just like everyone to know that if you missed a portion of it,
I know
you're gonna get the link or email Carlos or contact Anton or IT person. Because we want to reach as many people as possible with this good information. I mean, every speaker brings something so good, whether it's for a community or our business or, our family's business, who knows?
I appreciate that.
So thank you for coming. Nice to meet you, Gene. Sorry.
I want to know how my wife puts it. That's the key.
Probably can hear me better.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that, but like I was telling you, we had a rough time. So I had this kind of unusual experience, like, yeah,
But he's dancing with the angels of my
Are you okay with it?
You're okay with it, we're gonna have a little less time, right? But the benefit has been is she's been able to stay at home, raise a child, What do you want? She is, I want, right now she wanted to do something to help others, so somewhere along the health and wellness. She's talking about potential pharmacists, dentists, she's kind of exploring right now, like, she kind of had a little dream, she wanted to be a veterinary, she kind of past that, always help people. But she's still 14, like I told her, I just want her to be, good at school, learn as much as she can now, and then that decision will come
you know, as long as it's a high school year, she starts to make her path to college, right?
Trying to figure out you know, there's a book, if I may share it, it's called What's the Color of My Face? If I have to tell you one thing, what's the color of my face? Because it'll kind of tell you what God, what cards God gave you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Like I was a transactional trader. Best thing every day is my boss. And I had to actually go figure out, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Does that make sense? Same thing. Sounds like you had some soul searching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got that next, you know, stage of my life. You know, I can run to your point, you know, it takes up a lot of my time. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life.
So what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, you know, my next honestly, like I want to start doing something like this, you know, where I do public speaking, helping others.
What would you quit Walmart do or something?
You know, at some point, yeah, at some point.
What would you like to do?
Consultate, like I'd like to be a consultant, you know, in business and leadership, and kind of like where my next phase, where I want to be able to build that, help others, because, you know.
By the way, you actually are so inspiring. You know, because I run a business and I don't know if I've done it well. I've been in business for like 36 years. You know, I'm ex-military, and but you know what? There's always room for improvement. And I'm looking at, I've had, you're actually always working on yourself. You said that what you do reflects the internal struggles there. Yes, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's a way to where, you know, just gotta think my family. It's a way for people to go out there and make money, but at the same time, help others.
Well, and no passive food. You know, I always loved it. Well, you know, I was like, well, I'm working for the government, great, I do the thing, and I bunch of fun. But you know, at some point, you're gonna die. The lights are gonna be on, the lights are gonna close. And there's gonna be an accountability. And people don't quite, well, I'm getting over it. You're not getting over it. You know, no, you've been caught. You know, people don't understand, well, I have a fish job and I don't do it. No, you giving time to maybe a false god. And when I start laughing, I say, no, you don't understand. You're paying a terrible price because you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. There's a purpose, you know, and most people it's fear. You know, it's fear. Well, okay, so let's assume you fail. What does that look like? It's funny, I have a paralegal. So what does that look like if you fail? Wow, you know, fear, false evidence of your real. Remember that? No, that's okay. You're awesome. Hey, come on.
Thank you so much. I got your card. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
And listen, I'm really good at what I do. So, and I normally just say, you know, I'm mentally legal studies. And record.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you. You know, we try to level play, just try to have dads to stay with the kids.
Yeah.
We're not, you know, we're not misogynists, we're just trying to do the right thing.
That's right.
It's
Yeah,
God's
appreciate
work.
it. Thank you so
God bless
much.
you. God bless you.
Take care.
Can I get you to fill out what it
Yeah.
is, just for our records, so we have documentation? Thank you.
Oh,